Recording.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this AIM Center webinar. We're so excited that you're choosing to spend some of your afternoon with us, and we really look forward to this presentation on a great tool, Book Creator. So this is part of our Features and Accessibility series, where we bring in a range of different vendors to highlight how they're implementing accessibility into their products. There are closed captions being provided this afternoon, and I want to thank Cindy from ACS Captions. She's going to be helping us out with those. We hope you appreciate that support. And you will find the button for turning on the captions in your Zoom toolbar. Let us know if you have any issues with finding that option, but that will be available throughout the webinar. And then we encourage you all to use the chat as a way to interact with all of our panelists. Just make sure that you choose all panelists and attendees from the drop-down menu in the chat area. That will ensure that your messages don't just go to an individual, but are also being shared with the entire room. So let's go ahead and just want to remind you that there are some additional materials for this webinar. You will find the slides that we're using, as well as a handout. So we always provide a handout with all of the resources, all of the links that you need in one place. So that page, I'm going to read it out loud, but Leslie will also drop it into the chat. It's bit.ly, bit.ly, then /AEM for accessible educational materials, and then Book Creator. And it's case sensitive, so the B in book, the C in creator, both capitalized, and then AEM is in all caps. So you can access the materials for this afternoon session. We also professionally close caption the recording from this session, and that will take about a week before it's available at that same page. So it's the same page where you register for this afternoon's webinar. So with these logistics out of the way, it is my great pleasure to welcome two awesome presenters. I think you're going to get a lot out of this session. I'm really excited that they're joining us this afternoon. So my good friend, John Smith, we go back a ways. And so I'm really excited to have John share with us some of the accessibility features of Book Creator. And then Rosie McQuillan. And Rosie and I recently met, but I knew of her work even before I met her. And she's going to share some great examples of how Book Creator can support all learners in the classroom and in our virtual environments as well, our remote learning environments. So with that out of the way, this is one of the easiest webinars for me because I'm just going to step aside and let John and Rosie share some great content. So give us a second here while we switch places. So John, I'm going to stop sharing. And then I am going to let you take over.
Okay, sounds great. I will. Whoop, I lost my Zoom button there for a second. Hang on a second. It always takes a second. I forget when you stop sharing. Takes a second to come back. All right, so you should see my book now. Hopefully, you get a thumbs up, Luis and Rosie, if you can see the book.
Yep.
All right, perfect. So yeah, so let's go ahead and get started here. And we will do just a quick introduction again. So like Luis said, my name is John Smith. I am the iPod teacher on Twitter. So if you are on Twitter and you want to give me a shout out there, great. If not, no worries. I'm also John Smith at bookcreator.com. So if you have questions afterwards, either place is fine with me. I did teach special ed for 12 years, mostly 5th and 6th grade. Every once in a while, they threw a kindergarten class in there just for good measure to keep me on my toes. And then I was a technology integration specialist after that for 7 years. I've also teach a graduate class to teachers, and now I am the teacher success manager here at Book Creators. So lots of webinars, lots of trainings, sales support, basically anything that I can do to really help teachers understand and utilize Book Creator in their classroom. That's really my main goal. I am married. I've got 3 kids, 10, 7, and 3. I love golf, and I love clean cars, actually. So I'm actually a certified auto detailer on the side. And, right now here in Ohio, we're coming to the end, thank goodness, of salt season, where everybody's car is some various shade of disgusting at this point. So I'm really excited that the weather is turning and we're going to finally start seeing some clean cars out there on the road. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. Rosie?
Well, hello everybody. Rosie McQuillan. You can follow me on Twitter at Ro McQuill. I'm an assistive and ed tech consultant, and I work with students ages 3 to 22. I've been a special educator for over 25 years. I work with parents in providing accessible content, and I'm also an instructor with EdTech Teacher, and I work with teachers all across the country in providing accessible content for their students. Like John, I also work as a project manager at Lesley University, and I follow students that are going through the CAP process or student teaching process here in the Boston area that are going to be our future special educators. So I'm really excited about that and giving some things back. I am definitely not a car person, John, so just thought I would put that out there. I'm an avid gardener, a runner. I am the mother of 2 grown sons and been married for many, many years, 40 something. And we've had our first grandchild. So that's what's been, yeah, it's been pretty exciting. Even with COVID, it's been an interesting ride. But I've been using Book Creator since 2011 when it first came out with the standalone version on the iPad. So it's something near and dear to my heart because all the tools that most kids needs are built right in. So I'm anxious to take this ride with John today and talk about some ways to use Book Creator in the classroom.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Rosie. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. And I always like to start with the why, right? Why are we here? Why do we care about any of this? Because a lot of times, even in my grad classes, when I start talking about things like accessibility, I hear people say things like, well, I don't teach special ed. Why is this important, right? Or, and the answer is because having options to make learning accessible to everyone and differentiated for everyone allows all students to shine. All right. And I think that is what is really key. And that, as my time as a special ed teacher, that is what has stood out to me, is that students have different ways of showing their expertise. And we shouldn't just keep them in these little tiny boxes and say, this is the only way that you can demonstrate your learning. And so these accessibility options are going to be there to help you and all of your students. And so for those of you that do know me, I'm not sure if anybody out there has watched a John Smith webinar or not before, but I love stories. And so I'm going to start off with 2 quick stories. And the first one is a real personal story. So I love making books. And like Rosie, I have been using Book Creator since the very beginning. And I started using it with my students. And honestly, for quite a long time, I would say pretty much up until about a year and a half ago, making books accessible wasn't really something that came to the forefront of my brain, right? It was, oh, cool, I'm going to make a book. And that was kind of it. And I just wanted to publish books out there and kind of share things with everyone. But I was on a phone call one day and I was, listening to some music as I was on hold. And then all of a sudden, this blood curdling screech just shot straight through my ear. My ears started ringing. It was a really weird sensation, obviously. And as the day went on, it never really went away, this ringing in my ear. And finally, I took some Tylenol and I laid down in bed, and it didn't really hit me until I was laying in bed with my left ear on the pillow. And my wife was talking to me and I was looking at her and I couldn't hear a single thing that she was saying. And I realized at that moment that I had lost the hearing in my right ear for nearly 15 hours. And I was not necessarily scared that I lost my hearing, but the first thing that came to mind was, wait a minute, now I know why accessibility is important for everyone. And at that moment, like I said, I realized I needed to start thinking a little bit more about accessibility features within Book Creator, and being able to share that information out with others. So that was story number one. Now, the hearing did come back, so everything was good there, but the idea still remains, right? I still understand that it is important that these accessibility features can be used because it does help all students. And then my second story here isn't really my story at all. And this is a story of this young man right here and how Book Creator gave him a voice. And I really, really love this, this example book here. So I'm just going to pull it up. We do have the entire blog post actually on this, and I'll put this into the chat window here. But there's a student, and this student right here, Cian, has Downs, and he was a little nervous about going into school, and his teacher showed him Book Creator, and then he documented his entire process of the school year within Book Creator. So he's got comics that he took pictures of and he put in there. There's his physical writing about when you should cover your hands and wash your hands and cover your mouth. And this is just a really awesome story. And you can click through this and you can view this entire document about his experience. And again, I think the most important piece here is that had it not been for something like Book Creator and for this teacher, Cian would not have had the opportunity to share his voice and open up his world to everyone. And so I just love this example. This is a great blog post. So I highly recommend taking a look at this and learning a little bit more about this student and his teacher and all of the amazing things that happened throughout that school year. All right, so let's go ahead and keep moving on here. So the next important piece, as we talk about these things, you're probably gonna sit there and say, oh gosh, if you haven't used Book Creator before, I need to try that out or check that out. What do I do? All right, and so the very first thing that you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna go to this website right here, which is app.bookcreator.com. So app.bookcreator.com. And I did put that link into the chat window as well. And thank you as also for the others helping me. When you go to this website, the first thing that I usually notice is that teachers get really, really excited and they just start clicking buttons. All right. So when you get there, just take a break for a second, because there are actually two different logins on this page. There's the student login on the left, and there is the teacher login on the right. So as a teacher, make sure you physically click that teacher button, and then you're going to sign in with one of these options. And this will give you access to the free version of Book Creator. And that allows you to make 40 books in one library. So quite a bit of books that you can make and quite a lot of things that you can do inside of Book Creator for even with just the free version. So definitely want you to take a look at that. Okay. It's going to ask you a couple questions. It's going to ask you a few things, and you're just going to get in there and start making your libraries and your books. And we have plenty of tutorials and plenty of things on our YouTube channel that will help you along the process. Now, when you do get in there, again, I just like to give this out as a little bit of background information. There is this teacher dashboard, and that's where all of your books and libraries are going to live. But there are some really cool tabs here that you need to be aware of. The Discover tab is a great place to go, and that will give you extra information, ideas for using Book Creator in your classroom. Lots of cool things here. These are all books written by students and teachers. We also have this Learn tab, and in this Learn tab, you will be able to truly get a deep understanding of Book Creator. There's our certification course inside of that tab, so definitely want you to take a look at those when you get the chance. We won't be able to go over all of those today, but those is definitely something you can take a look at on your own. All right, so the first exciting piece of Book Creator that I like to share is the dictation feature. All right, now the dictation feature is really amazing, and I'm going to demonstrate that here in a second. And I have to admit that Siri, when I talk to her, thinks I have a mouthful of marshmallows. But Book Creator is really good at figuring out what I have to say. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate this, and then I'm going to ask Rosie if she has any ideas or ways that she has seen dictation used in her classrooms or with the teachers that she works with.
Sure.
So all of the important things that you need to know about Book Creator are up here to the top right under the plus button. And so I click the plus button, and then I have some options. And for dictation, we want text. So you can choose either comics and text, or you can choose media and text. And when you click text, then a text box is going to appear on your screen. You can copy and paste text if you wanted to from other sources and put that in here. You can manually type your text in there if you want. But my favorite button, and the one that we're here to talk about, is this one right here, and that is the microphone. Now, what I love about this button is that my students wouldn't necessarily see it right away. And they would say to me things like, well, I can't spell, I can't type, I don't know where the keys are, blah, 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 right? And so I would say to them, hey, you know what, that's fine, because guess what? Your teachers, they can't spell, they can't type, and they don't know where the keys are, because I watch them, right? I watch them send me emails and type, and the kids would laugh and kind of giggle at this. But I would tell them, we have this button right here, this microphone. And what that does is it allows you to write with your face. And the kids are like, wait, what? And I'm like, yep, you could write with your face. And so when you click this microphone, watch what happens. A drop-down menu appears on the left, period. Choose the language from the drop-down and start speaking. And that's it. I speak, and the text appears. And again, that drop down, you can actually choose 120 different languages. All right, and that is awesome. Now, I did see a question here real quick. Why is it that the mic doesn't always appear? My short answer to that is it's probably a setting within your browser where you may not have allowed access to the microphone. My guess is that's where why that didn't happen. So I would definitely take a look at that. And we also do have on our support page lots of articles on the microphone and things like that. Now, this button will not translate English into another text, but if I speak Spanish, I can choose Spanish from the drop down and add Spanish, and it will make Spanish text with the accent marks, which is really cool, or Italian, or any of 120 languages. So I love this microphone. When I click done, my text is here, and then I can click the inspector, and now I can change the size of the text. I can change the font. I know there are specific fonts. Luis, I watched you talk about this at a conference, and I can't remember the name of the font that is the best, but there are some great fonts here. Rosie, maybe you know the.
Well, you have Open Dyslexic, and you want to look at fonts that are sans serif, so straight up and down, which allows for more visual white space between letters and words, which assists with visual tracking. So that Open Dyslexic is one that we use with our kids with dyslexia.
Awesome.
So you're looking for sans serif fonts.
Perfect. And there it is. And again, if I click that inspector, all of those options for formatting your text are right there inside of that box.
John, can you go back into dictation and show them the magnifier? Because that's one piece that people have said, well, my kids can't really see the text, it's too small.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned it, because this is the one tool that I always forget to talk about, because it's just right there.
It's exactly.
Yeah, down here at the bottom of your text box, there is a little magnifier. And if you click on that, it will make that was original. And if you click the magnifier, that will make it a little bit bigger within the text box itself. Right. Now, that doesn't make it bigger after I click done. From here, I have to increase that through the inspector button. But that does help within that box. And I know that we could probably improve on that even more and make that a little bit bigger if we needed to. So there are some really cool features there. And I did see the question that was how do I get to the microphone? All right, so let me go back and I'll show that one more time. So if you click the plus button, and again, for speech to text, you're going to choose either text from the comics, or you're going to choose media and text. And when you do that, in that text box pops up, there is a microphone right there on the right side of the text box. Again, if it doesn't appear there, then it's more than likely that you forgot to click a little box that said allow microphone access. All right. So
this is Luis, just to clarify. So that plus button is in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. So just look for that plus and maybe label add as well if you're using a screen reader.
Yep, correct. Good job. Sorry about that. My 3-year-old is not happy in the background. I can hear her. So,
John, can I add something before you go into captions? Can I add?
Yeah, absolutely.
There, I was working with a teacher recently, and as I said, I really believe in this app because I can use it for any student. And I had a student with an AAC device using the touch chat AAC application. And the accuracy with using their AAC device and the speech to text was 100%. So that student had a voice like everyone else in that classroom. I didn't have to modify anything. We used the iPad app for our touch chat, and then we're able to put text within their book. It was fantastic. And they were so excited to be able to do that and have text that, somebody else was not transcribing for them. So that was one thing. So talk about independence and self-advocacy. It was just a huge win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do see, Isabel, I do want to clarify your question. I saw your question. If you're using the iPad app, you won't see the microphone button on the bar. So when I click add text, if you're using the iPad app, you won't see this microphone right here. I'm using the online version of Book Creator. If you're using the iPad, when you tap inside the text box, the microphone will be on your virtual keyboard. That's where that button will be. So you'll just click it like you would using your microphone on anything with the iPad. And I did see a question too about the recording of what I just did, speech to text versus the actual recording of audio. And we will get to that audio button here too as well.
And again, John, if, was it Isabel? If you don't see that microphone, it's a setting under accessibility and you will need to turn it on.
Yep, awesome. All right, the second tool that we have that I want to talk about is the caption option. So we do have the ability to add captions to videos. So I'm going to show you what that will look like. And this is also, again, a really, really cool feature. So if I click the plus button, again, so all of the good stuff is up here under the plus button, right? So I click the plus button, click media, and then I'm going to click on this button here that says camera. When I click on the camera, I have two options. I can take a still picture or I can record video, and that's what we're going to focus on here for this time. I'm going to click record video. It's going to give me a countdown. Get out that last burp. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Smith. Click stop and use that video. And now that video is going to take a couple seconds here to upload to my page. I can resize that video. I can move it around, put it wherever I need it to go. And once that video is there, you'll see the video. Now, my apologies, no matter how hard I try, my face always looks ridiculous on this thumbnail. I've tried so hard to actually have a smile on this view and it never happens. So my apologies for that look. But if I click the video one time and then have it outline in blue, all right, so it has this like little blue box around it. I'm then going to click the inspector button. And once I click the inspector button, right here underneath that little thumbnail, there is a button that says add captions. So I'm going to click add captions, and there I see my video. And then over here on the left, we have some choices. So again, we have that same drop down where I can add captions in 120 different languages. Again, it does not translate, but if I speak Spanish, I can have Spanish captions. If I speak English, I can have English captions. And I'm going to do that in one of two ways. either generate automatically, which lets the system do it for me, or I can enter them manually. Now, I'll be honest, I always do generate automatically because it's easier. However, I've increasingly seen a lot of teachers that want to use the manual button, and here's why, and I think this is interesting. We don't have a translation feature, okay? If I speak English, English captions, Spanish, Spanish captions. However, if I enter manually, I can speak English and have Spanish captions if I type them in Spanish, or vice versa. I have Spanish video, English captions by entering them manually. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can kind of play around with here. But I'm just going to say generate automatically. And then within 30 seconds or so, that video will have captions. Now, the good news is you do not have to watch these bouncing dots. You can click the back button, you can continue working in your book, and then within, like I said, about 30 seconds or so, oh, there we are. I get a little message that says my captions are ready. And when I click the play button, watch what happens. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Smith. There we go. Now we have our captions under our videos. And so again, I think this is great. If you have a student or a family member with hearing impairments, put the captions in the videos. And now they can actually see what is being said in those videos. But it can also be used for students who struggle with reading fluency. Now they can watch the videos, and as they're watching and listening, they can see the text on the screen. I told you I like stories. My other favorite story is my wife hates whatever shows that I watch. So like whenever we're like watching shows anywhere, she's always telling me to turn it down. So I've gotten really good at reading my shows because I put the captions on all the time. So anyway, that's just, again, just a little side note.
And I'll chime in with another side note that this is a great way, especially for early learners, to increase their exposure to print. So as they're watching the video, they're actually reading those captions as well. So that's an important point to highlight.
Yeah, excellent. And I do see your questions in here. So let me go back to the one. Can I repeat it? Yes. So when I click the plus button, media and camera, that's where I'm going to choose to record a video. So I just click record. I start doing my thing. Once that video is on the page, click the video and click the inspector, and that's where you're going to be able to add captions. All right. And so again, if you click add captions, it gives you the choice to do it automatically or manually. If I already have the captions and click add captions, I then can edit the captions if I wanted to. So this is a really good way for students to go back and make sure that they spoke clearly what they needed to have in that video. And then the other question I saw was, can a position of the captions be moved a little up or down? And at this point, the answer to that is no. The captions are just stuck kind of right where they are. That is something that our engineering team is aware of, and it is something that I'm sure, will fix at some point in the near future. But for right now, they just kind of get stuck right there.
And then, John, for those people that are on the iPad, this is not available.
Correct.
The other thing is you don't even have to do your video within Book Creator itself, which is a game changer for students and teachers. You can upload a video and then add the transcription to an existing video that you created in another program. Yep. So that's, we're not doubling the work, we're working smarter, not harder kind of thing. And as Luis said, being able to make the connection between the text and the spoken language is so huge for our English language learners as well.
Yep, absolutely. Now, I did see Luis made a comment here about the length of video will depend on how much storage you have. So I must have missed Betsy's question, but there's actually two parts to that. So that is true if you're on the iPad. So if you're on the iPad app and you're making a video, then it will be highly dependent on the storage space that you have on the iPad. If you are using the online version and not using the app, then you will have, there is no limit to the length of video or the number of videos that you can put into a book. Just keep in mind, the longer the videos, the more videos that you have in a book, it may take a little longer for the page to load or for the book to load, but you do not have any limits on the online version. So, And then what is the recommended length? That's a good question. I've done, 2, 3, 4-minute videos, and I've never really had any issues. So I don't think there is a best practice in that I've seen in terms of length of video, but I would definitely play around with it and see if if you get to a point where you're making 10, 15-minute videos and you notice something starting to slow down, then I would take a look at it. But yeah, I like what Louis says here. Make the videos brief. The more videos is fine. You don't have to worry about the number of pages, so you don't want a one page with a, 50-minute video or something on it. You can definitely break that apart. But good stuff. All right. The next one is the audio transcript. And this is an amazing option. All right. And Valerie, I think will probably answer your question right here. So there's actually two that we're going to talk about right here. And I may be jumping it a little bit, but I do want to talk about both of these because I think these are both amazing pieces. So one of the options that we have in Book Creator is the ability to add your own voice to the page. So if I click the plus button, click media, and click record, I can now record my voice. So I just click start recording. Gives me that same countdown. Once upon a time, there was a boy named John. Click stop, and I can preview the recording. I can delete it, or in this case, I'm just going to use that recording. And now that student's voice is right there on the page. And so I have this amazing audio button that I can click and I can listen to my students reading their pages. Great for reading fluency and things like sound effects, music in the background, all kinds of stuff. But what you can do here now is click the record button or the audio button itself, and then click inspector. And now we can add a transcript. And again, this is going to look fairly familiar at this point. I have the drop down, so I can choose my language. I can enter the transcript manually, or I can generate automatically. And so I just click generate automatically. And again, within 30 seconds or so, that transcript will appear here at the bottom of the audio button. So you'll be able to click the audio button, or you'll be able to click the transcript and you can see the text that goes with it. There it is. Or I can play the audio. So when I click on this, there's the transcript that goes along with it. And if I click the audio itself, once upon a time, there was a boy named John. There we go. Now we can actually hear the voice. So again, I love this, absolutely love this, because I've had many students who could not physically write something with a pencil. And instead, we use this audio button. And now that student who did not have a voice before in writing does have a voice. So I absolutely love this.
John, it can also be used for our students that need to hear directions multiple times. And the fact that a teacher could add directions to an assignment, and that student would listen to it as many times as they need to, starting and stopping, to help foster that self-advocacy. Also, I've seen it used for peer-to-peer editing. So when you talk about Book Creator Online and the ability to collaborate, teachers could add comments and students can use it for peer-to-peer editing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love this. I just think it's a really great tool in so many different ways. So yeah, definitely want you to take a look at that option. All right. Another one.
Can we go back?
Yep, absolutely.
You told me to jump in. You're going to wish I hadn't.
No, I like it.
Are you going to, can you show them? I think what's really important is the fact that when you have audio, you can also create an audio hotspot. The fact that you can add an image, and I think it's a great accessibility feature. Yeah, you could add it right to that. When I work with a teacher that gives directions, she brings in her Bitmoji, and her little face is up in the corner, and that hotspot is embedded in that image. So I think, and anybody using the unique learning system or anything else like that, where you want to add the directions. So
absolutely. So for example, if this was my little Bitmoji character, And this was what my students could click on to get directions, right, for what to do on the page. My students, they always called that fake Mr. Smith, right? Like, it was still me, they still called it fake Mr. Smith. So a couple things. We'll pretend here for a second that this audio button has directions. I could leave it right here, just right next to the picture, and then the students could click on it. But my favorite thing, and what Rosie is talking about here, is I'm going to take this audio button and I'm going to put it right on top of my face. All right. Then if I click the inspector button, there is a button right here that says make invisible when reading. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that on, and you'll notice that it now makes this audio hotspot resizable in some different ways. Okay. Not just big square. Now I can make it a rectangle. I can make it cover the entire Bitmoji. And so when my students view this book in the read mode, they'll see the page, they'll see my face, but they don't see the audio button until I hover over my face. And then when I click on it, once upon a time there was a boy. So I've got that hidden audio button, and that's what Rosie's talking about. And I love the hidden audio button. I mean, you can use that for all kinds of different things, whether it's directions or, special hints and tips and tricks for, solving problems, or, maybe there's a test on Friday, and if you find the invisible hotspot, you get a little extra information on that test. But there are so many cool things that you can do with those hidden audio buttons.
Topic boards, graphic organizers. And the other thing, John, if you right click it, you can lock it in place.
Yep. So if you right click, or if you're on a Mac, if you 2-finger click, then you can actually lock that audio button there, so your kids can't accidentally move it or move things around. So yeah, you can 2-finger click or right click on any of the elements really in Book Creator, and you can lock them. So yeah, absolutely. All right, excellent. Let's go on to our navigation. All right, so we do have the ability to use the keyboard itself to navigate through Book Creator. And so if I have, actually I have a funny one. So if you have students who can use the arrow keys to move around Book Creator, you can do that. But I also kind of thought of it as a side note. Like, we had middle school students, and I don't know how many of these middle school students just busted up their Chromebooks and their trackpads wouldn't work. Well, guess what? They can't use that as an excuse now and say, I can't use Book Creator because my trackpad doesn't work. You can use the arrows, right? So it's an accessibility feature for everybody, all right? So what you're gonna do is, when you're on a page, if you tap on the tab button, then oops, sorry about that. I clicked the wrong option there. Hang on a second. Let me get back to the page I was in. There we go. So if I'm on a page and I click on the tab button, you'll see that the button here that says My Books is now outlined in blue. And so then I can tab again, go to Pages, tab again, and go to the plus button. And so I just navigate using the physical keys instead of the trackpad. And then when I tap on Return, then the menu pops up. And again, I just tab across. I've got Media, Comics, and Shapes. I'll tap on Return for Media, and then tab across, but then it will tab down. And so now I can navigate through Book Creator just using the physical keys. So tab, Return. And then I'm going to use the pen tool as an example here. The pen tool looks a little bit different in this mode because there is a black dot and an orange rectangle around it. So now if I hold the space bar down and move my arrow up and just hold the up arrow or the right arrow, I can now draw using the arrow keys. And so this is a really cool feature. And if you hold the shift and space bar and then the arrow key, now it'll make bigger movements. So you don't have to, it's like an Etch-a-Sketch, right? You get this old school Etch-a-Sketch kind of feel to it, but it's a really cool way for students who cannot use the trackpad to be able to participate. You can do the same thing with a photo. So here's a photo now. This image that I drew is an image that I can move around. If I click the arrows, you can see that I'm moving it in little itty bitty increments. If I click the shift and the arrows, I can move it in slightly larger increments. And if I click the tab, I can even resize the image. Oops, I went too far there. I can even resize the image using the tab option. So this is really cool. And I have another one, which is even my favorite with the pen tool. It's not an accessibility option per se, but I really think it is, because a lot of times when you tell students that it's time to draw, they become paralyzed, right? Because they can't, they're not an artist, they're not creative, or whatever they say, right? Well, my favorite pen is this one here, and this is the Auto Pen. And you can still use the arrow keys for this if you wanted to, but I'm going to try to draw something here, and I'm going to draw a bike. And my bike is hideous. All right, it looks terrible because I'm not good at trackpad drawing. But at the top of the screen, there are some options. All right, what is it that I'm drawing? Is it a dumbbell? It is not. Is it a drum set? No, it is not. Ooh, it's a bike. I click on the bike that I like, and it actually fixes my drawing. And so again, it's not labeled as an accessibility option, but I think it is. And I love this, and I just love the auto draw. Click the X. I can even go in here to my cool colors, and now I can do my fill bucket, and I can fill in my magical bike that I just made. All right, and now it's an image that can be resized and moved around the page wherever you need it to go. So again, I love the pen tool.
John, it's so important for kids with motor difficulties, and for our students, like you said, that, you know, they work so hard on a drawing and it never comes out the way they visualize. So then they get discouraged and anxious. So
Absolutely.
it's another way to have them show what they know with drawings. And this is available on the iPad as well.
Yep. And I saw a couple comments that AutoDraw is also a website. That is true. And as a kind of a fun fact, we are one of the very few tools that actually have access to the AutoDraw within our tool and not having to go outside to another website. We have that built right in, which is really cool. So anyway, again, to get there, plus button, media, pen, and then you can get the AutoDraw. And if you click the tab button, that's when you can start using the arrow keys as your navigation. All right. Oh, and there it was. See, I told you I'd get excited and and go too far beyond it. So anyway, there you go. We talked about the pen tool. So we'll go to the next one. And so the next feature is read to me. All right. And the read to me mode is not visible in where I'm at right now, which is this edit mode. But if I click the play button, or if I publish my book and share it with others, then when they click the plus button or the play button, this is what it would look like on a website. And I can see here that there's a button that says read to me. And so what's really cool here is that if I click on this, the book will read to me. It will read the text, it will play the audio, it will play the video, and if you've labeled your images with the accessibility text, it will also read those. And so first thing I'm going to do is click the gear here and make sure that all of my settings are turned on. So I've got side-by-side pages. Which voice do I want to hear? And I know there's another voice. It might be Alex. That's like one of the most easily recognized voices. I don't know if it's Alex or not, but there's a voice in there that works really well for everybody. But highlight words, play multimedia, turn pages automatically, and then there's a speed button. So you can go slow, middle, or fast, and you can do a lot of really cool things here. So let's go ahead and demonstrate the read to me. So I'm going to click read to me.
John Smith looking through a magnifying glass. Read to me. John Smith reading books. Wait until they see this.
All right, and so I'm going to stop that. Now, let me go back here for a second, and I'm going to go back into edit mode. So this image on the previous page, if I click on it and click the inspector, right here is where I was able to put in that accessibility text. And I said, John Smith looking through a magnifying glass. And so you heard that being read. And then when I click the arrow, you could see, you could see the words being read to you And then down here, it would read the same. And then with my image of me sitting there reading a book, it would give me the same kind of information, right? It would say John Smith reading a book. So that is the read to me function. I personally think this is amazing. I love it. The one thing that I always struggle with, regardless of the tool, right, is that robot voice. I think it's a great feature, but in my opinion, this is a really awesome option, is to have that audio button on the page. So when people are clicking and having that page read to them, they're actually hearing your voice, right? Or your student's voice. I think that's so powerful, but I love the read to me, and I love this ability to highlight text, play the book automatically. It's so many cool things that you can do in there.
And John, that whole thing with read to me is fabulous. I use it all the time, but you're right with the audio button, especially now when a lot of us are either in a hybrid situation or a remote learning situation. And anytime you can make that direct connection with your students by having them hear your voice or you hearing their voice is huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fact that they can listen to that numerous times. And we also have to consider right now visual fatigue, as we all spend countless hours on Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, the WebEx or whatever you're using. The fact that instead of reading the text can be read to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good question there, how do you change the voice? So when you click the read to me or the play button, there's that setting icon. There is a button right here that says voice. And if you click this, this is where you can change the voice. Now, this is where I have to take a kind of a step back for a half a second, because that button is dependent on your device, the browser, and whatever language packs you have. I'm doing this from my MacBook, and it had all of the languages already on it. So when I click that, I've got 100 languages that I can choose from, or voices that I can choose from. If you're on a Chromebook, you may have to download the different accessibility language packs before that becomes something other than Alex or whatever is on there.
Now, if I can chime in, this is Luis. If you're on a Mac or on an iPad, I would definitely select Alex. That's the most advanced voice you have available on the system. It can even breathe every once in a while, and actually breathes in different ways depending on what the next word is. So I definitely recommend choosing Alex if you have that option on your system.
Awesome. Thank you.
I didn't know that.
All right. And then another question, and maybe Rosie or Luis, maybe you can answer this question a little bit better, because I don't have access to switch control. If they turn a page with switch control, will it begin reading that page? I haven't tried that out. That may be a question for engineering as well.
I've used some switch control, and it should be on, and I would not do side by side. I would do it on single page, John. So if you want to just show them how to access single page, and then your switch should read one page at a time.
So if you click on this read the play button and go to that read to me mode right there where the gear is, side by side, I'm going to turn that to not side by side. So just
then
single
you get
page.
one page at a time.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Rosie. All right. And then, yeah, so that's the read to me mode. And then I wanted Rosie to talk about some resource books here as we start to wrap up our time. I can't believe it's been an hour already.
I know.
Almost. So Rosie, if you would, I'll turn the pages and click on things for you.
Okay, so the first book in the left-hand corner was a book that I created for Book Creator on ways to use Book Creator to customize the user experience and looking at Book Creator through our UDL lens. In that book, there are ways to represent content that John went over, and some examples created by teachers for you to look at, to recreate, to use however you want to use them. So if you see, the guiding principles of UDL and how Book Creator has multiple means of engagement and representation and action and expression, all built into that same tool. The other piece about Book Creator, and this is addressed a little bit here, is the fact that we have a lot of students with executive functioning issues, and the ability to have everything you need under one roof is huge, where your students are not, clicking all over the internet. And if you're a Google user, I'm not a Microsoft person, and John, you may know this, the fact that that multiple accessibility options, there's actually a video there that Fire Drill is with switch accessibility. You can add, we didn't talk about this, media, whether it's a Google Map or a Google Form, Google Doc, you can bring all that media in. So if you had a unit of study, everything your student needs is in one place. So if you want to click out of that one for a second. And actually, this SEL book, John, has an example of a Google form.
Yeah, and I think, Rosie, I think that's so important. Just this past year has been crazy for everybody.
Yes.
And everybody's stressed out. And so in my opinion, the one thing that I've learned over the last year is that easy always wins.
Yeah.
And if you want to be as stress-free as possible and you want your students to be as stress-free as possible, choose something easy. And in my opinion, it doesn't get much easier than what, like Rosie said, everything's in one place. You don't have to go to 100 websites to figure things out.
Yeah, and in this example, as you can see the Bitmoji, so as John showed before, the Bitmoji is the direction. So every time, we're not changing the format. So every time the student sees the Bitmoji, they know there's an audio direction. And in that one is a morning check-in. So it should take you to a Google form that the students could complete with symbols, and it would actually then collect that data that the teacher can then use to guide their instruction. This is all about, how are you feeling? You can embed, these are all YouTube videos, books read out loud, could be teacher created books. Many of these are from the Screen Actors Guild, and students can then decide. In that little house down in the lower right-hand corner, John, go a couple of pages further. Yeah, so if you click on the house, it will then take you, because it is a hyperlink to the beginning of that choice board of what you want your students to read. So you can see how within one book, you've embedded content from Drive to get a gauge of how are your kiddos feeling today? Because we know that some of our students are really struggling. So, and all the content that they're going to need is embedded right within the book itself.
Yep, absolutely. And I love, Luis, what he just put in there too, is how do you, creating choose your own adventure stories.
Correct.
Or choose your own adventure paths for students. What learning path do you want to take in this session? So absolutely, I think those are fantastic.
John, someone is asking in the chat, how do you create a hyperlink?
Yeah, so hyperlinks are pretty easy. There's two different ways you can do that. So if I have a text that's already here, as I'm typing the text, I can highlight the text, click this link button, and then either link it to a website or to a specific page in the book. So if I just put in page 5 and click save, then when I click done, you'll see the text is different now. And when I click on that button or click on the text, it will take me back to page 5 of the book. So I love the idea that Rosie had with putting a house or some recognizable icon on every page. It takes you right back to where you need to go to choose that adventure. Then the same thing can be done with images. So if I click on this Bitmoji or any image, the image that I find from my image search or whatever, I can do the same thing. Click the image, click the inspector, but instead of choosing a link, now it's just right here where I say hyperlink either to a website or again to an address. Just put in page 6 and then that's it. And now when somebody clicks on my face, it'll take them back to page 6.
Someone is asking how you share your book.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rosie, do you want to talk about any of the ones on the last page here before I show
There's a
that?
great, so on the left-hand side, links to an article in Closing the Gap, all about Book Creator and accessibility, and it's current. So I thought that was a good resource. And to the right is supporting our English language learners, which is a Book Creator book created by I think two teachers that are working with ELL students.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of great resources in that book that you can see.
Great. And these books, this whole book that I shared with you all today is going to be made available to all of you. So when Louise sends around the follow-up information with the resources and links, you'll have this book so that you can go back through and kind of look at this as well. But the question was, how do I share books with others? So once I've created a book, underneath the book, there is a share button. And if I click the share button, one of the options is to publish online. Now, I've already published this book, so I'm not going to stop publishing it because I want everybody to have it. But instead of saying stop publishing, it would ask me a couple questions, title, author, and then I just say publish. And that's it. And now it's online. So anybody that has this blue link is then able to view that book on any internet connected device. So it's not searchable on Google. It's not, random people aren't going to find it. But if you give this link out to somebody, then they will be able to view your book. And the other thing that's really cool is when you make changes to a published book,
Yes.
they automatically show up in the published version. So you don't have to stop publishing, republish, stop publishing. Just publish it, make the changes, and then they will appear right there inside the book. So very simple. Share, publish, answer a couple questions, publish again. That's it. And it's ready to roll.
And teachers have loved that aspect of being able to share something created in the classroom with parents and grandparents and kids being able to be an authentic author. So, that authentic audience is so important to kids and their motivation and engagement. And Book Creator allows them to do that in a secure environment because, as you said, it's not searchable. You have to share that link purposefully.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I know we're running out of time.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Luis has some wrap up things. Be safe out there. Happy bookmaking, everyone. And Luis, it's back to you.
Thanks so much, John. Great webinar. I hope everyone will agree in the chat that you've given them lots of great ideas, both you and Rosie. Rosie, you've shared some great ideas, and John, you've done a great job of demonstrating these features. So that's what's great about Book Creator. It's really provides lots of options for sharing your story, as John started at the beginning with his story. And lots of accessibility features built into it, from the keyboard navigation to screen reader support. So we didn't talk about that, but a lot of the buttons are labeled, to the ability to create accessible content by adding image descriptions. So there's lots more for you to explore. And Book Creator has done a great job of creating how-to videos and resources. So John, the book that you just shared with everybody, that's actually available through the handout. So let me just remind you all. So if you go to the event page where you registered for this webinar, you will find the slides that I used at the beginning, but those are not as interesting as John's. What you're really after is the handout, because that will share links to all of the resources, all of the sample books, and then obviously the library that has the book that John just shared with us all. So we are coming up on the top of the hour. This is your last chance to get one last question in there. So while I wrap up, if you want to have a question for Rosie or John, just type that into the chat, and if we have time, they'll answer it real quick. But we always appreciate your feedback. And so Leslie is going to drop a link to a feedback survey in the chat. It's a SurveyMonkey and link, and we would really appreciate your feedback about this session, We'll share that with John and Rosie. I know just like us here at the AIM Center, we're always striving to make these webinars and professional learning offerings as responsive to your needs as possible. And we're always aiming for improvement. So please join me in thanking John and Rosie for an excellent webinar. I want to thank Leslie O'Callaghan, who's been behind the scenes here, monitoring the chat and sharing lots of resources, as well as Cindy from ACS Captions for providing the captioning this afternoon. Really appreciate you all and what you do to make learning more accessible and enjoyable for everyone. So thank you so much, everybody, and we will see you on the next one.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Luis.
Yep. Thank you, Luis.